Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And another happy day for the silver investor crowd as silver rallied up about $1 on the day, which we will get to in a minute. Although, just to start off, you may have noticed I'm again wearing my first Majestic silver shirt and am darn grateful that they are sponsoring this episode, bringing it to you guys tonight. And I think most of you know about First Majestic Silver. We're going to be talking a little bit more about them in tonight's video, but certainly if you are expecting a continuation in the silver rally, then definitely go to firstmajestic.com. They are one of the stocks with the highest leverage to silver. Even if that hasn't played out just yet, which, as we'll get to, makes me believe that there's possibly a bit of a coiled spring there. We shall see. Gets uncoiled before August expiration would be great. Although you'll see how that plays out. But anyway, you can see silver closed 26.43 last week. Was up over $1 at one point, is a little lower in late night trading in New York and the Far East. But still, again, for all the worries of when silver went, I mean, there was a lot of volatility last week. The price certainly did go down. I would imagine that's going to continue to happen in the future, yet not far off the $29 high. And also, big day here in gold, up about almost slightly under $40. You see quite a spike up there. Again, I have not really heard anybody else comment on this yet, but at least my studies of financial markets is that, I mean, usually when you start seeing something like this, where, I mean, especially silver, where the market was basically dormant for years, and then you have increased volatility, well, I mean, I guess the fundamentals are, I mean, but the fundamentals have always been there. Why now? I would suggest you're seeing a lot of leverage unwound, and have a good chance of seeing more of it unwound. As you will see here today, we have some fun articles pulled up. First here is an interview. 61,000 people already watched David Morgan on USA Watchdog. So maybe you heard this already, although I thought this was pretty interesting what David says right here, and we're going to play for a second.
If you go to shadowstats.com and you look at $50 silver in 1980 and you use the CPI numbers from 1980 and you don't distort them as they have been, the inflation adjusted price for silver is $600 an ounce.
And Greg Hunter is baffled by that one, which I love his reaction, but I mean, rightly so. And I hadn't even really thought of that one. And I was surprised to think that, wow, the just CPI adjusted with the shadow stats numbers, the 1980 high gets us to $600, which is in line with something I was thinking about earlier today and was quite excited to share on tonight's show. In that, so we have whatever is the fair value of silver, what maybe you call that, there was no COMEX leverage and things had to be physically delivered. And in that scenario, I would think you'd have some form of short squeeze with 500 to +1 leverage that so many report as the amount of claims per ounce. Whatever it is, there's some price, we'll call it X, that you would have at least if there was, you know, just buying and selling actual gold and silver. Although I wonder how that gets affected, because there's some level that the stocks would be, yet when you have, they're all juiced up. I mean, you have all the things that are happening in the world, yet the stock market is still so high. There's that additional amount that the price has gone up because of all of the money printing, the quantitative easing. So with silver, I guess there's maybe two components where what would it be in a free market pricing, and then does that get bid up further even from there? So it'll be fascinating to see. I'm seeing triple digit numbers more often. I try to be careful and not get myself in trouble on targets. Again, simplest way I've looked at it is that if the only reason the price came down from $50 in 2011 or 1980 for that matter was because of banks selling paper gold or silver they didn't have in 2011 or changing the rules. Again, you had a lot of margin involved on both sides in 1980, but to me, I see that kind of as a floor, and it'll be interesting to see whether silver goes through that level and stays above that level, which is one of the topics at upcoming Silverfest this September 12th to 13th. Schedule is on the Arcadia Economics homepage. Fortunately, David Morgan is going to be joining us for a few of the sessions, including, I believe, one Q&A, so you can get some of your questions answered by the Silver Guru himself, and we'll have the sign-up page for that soon. Here on King World News, man who correctly predicted silver would hit $30 now says silver may surge to new all-time high by September 30th. That would be fantastic to me, especially, I mean, if spirits, if there's any chance we could get $50 silver by Silverfest, what a party that would be. Again, I'm not saying that is going to happen. Although, on the other hand, I will maintain my belief that we are in the environment where something like that is at least a possibility to happen. Again, it's interesting, as I've mentioned before, in 1980, when silver was on its way up to $50, the time between 24 and 50 was less than a month. And you know, that's why, to me, it's worth studying why the price may do certain things. And, you know, looking at the way it's trading now, where it's quite volatile, and how quickly leverage gets unwound when someone senses there's a vulnerability in the market. Does another party exploit it? And will be darn fun to find out. So anyway, this was James Turk. They were talking about there, I believe. This would target a new record of $55 for silver. I didn't know if he actually said by 3 weeks based on the September deliveries. So it's not it seemed to indicate he's necessarily saying that is going to happen, but is possible. And yeah, we're getting closer. What's today? August 17th. So getting closer to those September delivery notices. Here, a quick look at the silver miners. They're a nice day for First Majestic, up 47 cents, over 4% on the day. Silver Crest rallying back. Silver Junior Miners, Silver Miners Index. Basically everything doing really well. There's Dolly Varden up a nickel there, over 7%. So while we've seen some days where the silver price has gone up and the miners haven't really responded, at least today we seem to have the good news for silver stocks. Although, as you will see in my high-tech chart here, I just keep looking back. Here you have December 30th. Silver was $17.93. First Majestic was $12.41. Now on August 17th, silver $9 higher. First Majestic down on the year. Interestingly, if you look over at, let's go over to Market Watch here. And the short interest, this was about 20%, I would say, a week or two ago. So it's come down a little bit. And I wonder if that's impacting things with First Majestic. Again, this is just my own internal speculation, although if there are banks or groups that can distort the bullion markets, is it possible that things are going on with the shares? Again, I want to be clear, don't have evidence to suggest that. Just I wonder if that could be the case, especially when you think about how back in 2016, silver goes from $14 to $20. First Majestic goes from $3 to $18. So again, in 2016, actually that's the first line on the chart here. So still lower silver price, but First Majestic a lot higher. My guess is in the end, if silver does what I believe it will, that all those shares will sort themselves out. And we'll keep an eye on it, especially now, something that's been tough for the companies and probably factors in. Here you have Pan American reporting quarterly silver production down more than 50% from a year ago. So there are other factors in the miners, and I don't mean to oversimplify this. And, you know, the stocks and the companies and the business models do change. So are some other factors, but again, in terms of the silver supply and demand, from Pan American, you see a big slowdown, primarily due to COVID. Although, what case that wasn't enough, as the dollar slides, some investors fret about its status as the world's reserve currency. And I mean, it's surprising it's, you know, only taken until 2020 to get to this point, but we got Reuters here on this one, who's increasingly sharing things like this. Factors weighing on the dollar. And what does Steve Mnuchin say here? Tells CNBC that the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency is in the U.S. interest, and the administration wants to maintain it. Okay, that's great. They're not doing much that at least makes me want to hold dollars. In fact, that's one of the things that I hopefully don't struggle with, but think about a lot, where, I mean, I've at times used bullion or mining shares and considered that as cash, which, again, not trading advice. I'm not well, I don't have a good track record of diversification and factor that in, but just to me, I get that on one hand, you know, if things go down, do you want to have cash to buy more? I guess that also depends how sophisticated trading wise someone wants to get, where, I don't know, just, and that's the tricky thing. It's kind of the inverse of how it's hard to short a bubble. You don't know how much higher it's going to go before it pops. And here with silver, in my opinion, the inverse of that. So you don't know how long that goes on, but it just seems to me inevitable at some point, whenever, and that could be September, maybe it's dragged out longer, but if there's a fractional reserve scheme going on in the COMEX, and the silver really, each ounce, over 500 people think they own it, then that's anyway just why I sometimes use bullion or mining shares, consider that as cash. Well, I guess that's relative to the option trading. So again, anyway, I think you get the idea there. We'll leave that aside, and, you know, perhaps why I think, you know, it's fun to trade the options or own the mining shares, but I mean, the reason to me it's worth the downside risk is because it's just, the whole thing seems so massively out of line that, you know, maybe you're not the most accurate, but I mean, look, here you have, love this from Jan Nieuwenhuis, dollar devalues. See, we had, what was it? The 1932, the gold price was 2067. Today it crossed 2067. This is from a week or two ago. Had this in there, been meaning to share it. So that's not today's price. Gold is not yet back at 2067, but the point being, you can see now, even by a suppressed gold price, has lost 99% of its value. And one could only imagine, I mean, what happens if the gold isn't at Fort Knox? How does that affect that? Or if, you know, we have these reports of missing trillions. So all the reasons to suggest that there is going to continue to be an increase. Here, Bloomberg admits consumer price data may understate inflation. This was sent out by GATA, Bill Murphy, Chris Powell, and I don't know. I just thought that was kind of funny. Is it possible? What if our governments aren't measuring consumer prices correctly? Is it possible? Again, they could go to get a subscription to John Williams' Shadow Stats. Think that would help. A story here that I know a lot of people saw. Doesn't sound like things are going ideally in Turkey. Although what was interesting to me, that through this article, Well, where did it go? As Reuters reported, Hassan followed his wife's instructions last week, took their savings to buy gold. And you hear of, again, this is one article, is this fair sample size representation of what's going on? I would say not, but just reading what's there. I think it is the best investment right now. So I converted my dollars to gold. And if you read through that, seems like they are somewhat turning to gold on an individual level. And the Turkey was a big gold buyer the last couple of years. So perhaps maybe the main takeaway, when you have a fragile situation, sometimes it's something like this that sparks, I believe that was kind of how it went down in 1998, but similar with the mortgages in 2008, and something to keep an eye on. Will that be the spark to, if you see a currency run and they're turning to gold and people are another event to help people realize the fragility of the system. Well, it's going to be one of these at some point in time, but I'll keep an eye on this one for you, which is why if you hit the subscription button and the notification bell, you can stay posted on things like this, as well as Warren Buffett trading shares of Goldman Sachs for gold. As a lot of people are aware, his new stock to his Berkshire Hathaway portfolio, Barrick Gold. And I know people are excited, wondering, geez, is this the sign? And it is kind of unusual because I can't figure out, why is he buying a company that just digs useless, barbarous relics out of the ground? So it seems somewhat contradictory to what he has said in the past, which to me seemed a little hard to believe as being genuine, given that his father, Howard Buffett, was essentially the Ron Paul of his day from the things I've read. A staunch sound money advocate, talked very publicly about gold. You can still read a lot of the comments there. And so, again, if Warren Buffett had said, I don't think gold's the best investment, or, it hasn't done a great job of tracking inflation yet, instead kind of went with the Ben Bernanke, I don't understand it. And yet here he is buying a gold company. So, and we know how Wall Street environment often can be somewhat of a copycat, once one starts doing it. I think the names are going to have to pile up over time. The price is going to be forced higher. I don't see how that can be reversed. I would not also expect that it's going to be a straight line. So learning to handle the weeks like last week, here we are again, the fundamentals are still there. The price is almost back to the highs. So at least that's how I look at it. And anyway, as we wrap up tonight, if you'd like to know a little bit more about First Majestic Silver, who did bring you this video today, an interview from a couple months back, but a nice company profile with Keith Newmeyer of First Majestic Silver. And that is coming your way now.